everyone, this is Marika and welcome back to another session with me. So in our previous session, we have discussed about education. We have discussed different aims of education, right? Today, we are going to discuss very small topic under education, which is principles of education. So we have seen principles are those certain statements or criteria that guides a particular process or a certain process, right? By following certain principles in each and every aspect, we make sure that the level or the standard of the particular thing is maintained. Right? Similarly, in education, we have different principles of education which is to be followed during the process of education when provided to the child, okay, which makes the process of education effective and also interesting. Okay, so before I move on and directly explain what are the few principles of education, let us first understand that these principles are given by Dr. Maria Montessori. So Dr. Maria Montessori is recognized as a very famous name in the field of child education. She have conducted various researches and done various studies on child education. Okay, and Dr. Maria Montessori focuses on child's psychology. Okay, and also gives great importance to it. She focused on child psychology and she gave certain principles of education based on child psychology. We are going to see the principles that were given by Dr. Montessori, keeping in mind the child's psychology and the importance of child psychology. The first principle is education as a process of development. So from the very beginning, since we started dealing this unit, we are seeing that education is for the overall development of an individual. Education aids in overall development of an individual, right? Now, this principle believes that development from within is essential principle of any education. That means education must help an individual develop from within. It is not something that is to be forced upon individual, right? And it is the role of the education to help an individual develop from within, right? Now, Montessori's system of education believed that a child at the time of birth is destined to become something in future. So the child at the time of birth is destined for future, all right? In future, the child grows and develops to become what he or she is destined to become. Okay, so in Montessori education system, it is believed that child at the time of birth comes with a fate. The child is destined to become something in future. And as the child grows and as the child develops, the child slowly becomes or develops into what he is destined or she is destined to become. All right. Now, why do we need education if the child is already destined at the time of birth and the child develops and becomes what he is destined to become? Why do we need education? What is the use of education here then, right? Now, it is the role of the education or the education should help the child to unfold his inner personality and individuality that is required by the child to become what he or she is destined to become. All right. So it is through the process of education the child grows and the child develops his inner personality, develops his individuality, and slowly into the future, the child becomes what he or she is destined to become. All right. Now, the second principle is principle of the growth of individuality. This principle is based on a belief that a child's individuality unfolds in natural and spontaneous manner. Child will manifest his individuality in natural manner, right? Therefore, a child must not be kept under strict restriction. The child must be given freedom to explore and to find out about his individuality. Giving freedom to the child or letting the child free helps him to develop his individuality and to let his individuality grow. So here the teacher plays a major role in the development of individuality of the child, and the teacher must be aware about the physical and psychological development of the child. The next principle is the principle of self-education. Now this principle says that The child learns by doing or carrying out activities. Okay, Dr. Montessori did not appreciate the interference of the teachers into the activities of the child. So, here she believed that the teacher must not constantly interfere in the activities of the child. The child must carry out the activities on his own. The child must experience things on his own. She believed self-education is the best method of education. Okay, so she focused on self-education by carrying out the activities by ourselves, by experiencing the things by ourselves. That is the best way to learn, or that is the best method of education, is what Montessori's system of education believed. Okay, that is the third principle. And the last principle is training of senses. Now we all know what are senses, right? Senses plays an important role in acquiring the knowledge and in the field of education. Now, senses are believed to be the gateway of acquiring knowledge. If the senses are properly trained, if the senses are proper, then to acquire knowledge or to gain knowledge is much easier. Therefore, senses are the gateway of knowledge. And if the senses are properly trained, if the senses of an individual are well trained, the process of education becomes a lifelong process, which means when the senses are trained and developed properly, the individual can learn throughout his life through the senses. Now, various studies that were conducted on students by Dr. Maria Montessori found that the senses of a particular individual is most active between the age group of 3 to 7 years. The senses of the children can be trained from 3 to 7 years of old because it is the active at this particular time the most. Now, she also believed that intellectual training or having intellectual capabilities developed is not possible without refined senses. Okay, she believed that acquiring knowledge or developing intellectual capacity or intellectual training is not possible. And training senses will enable the growth of reasoning and intellectual capabilities and functioning of the particular child or the particular individual. All right. So these are the various principles of education that were given by Dr. Maria Montessori. To conclude, today we've seen the principles of education are: the first one is the education as a process of development. Montessori system of education believed that the child at the time of birth is destined to become something in future, and as the child grows and in future the child becomes what he is destined to become. The role of the education here is to make sure that it unfolds the individuality and the inner personality of the child. The second principle is the growth of individuality. This principle is based on the fact or belief that a child manifests his individuality in natural and spontaneous manner. So the child must be given freedom for his individuality to grow. And the teacher plays a major role in the development of the child and must know about the physical and psychological development of the child. The next principle is the principle of self-education, which says that constant interference by the teachers in the activities that are carried out by the student is not good. This doesn't allow the children to get enough opportunity to carry out their activities. Therefore, the interference of the teacher during the process of education must be minimized because self-education is the best method of education. And finally, the last principle is training of senses. Training of senses is essential because senses are the gateway of acquiring knowledge, and therefore refined senses help us to gain knowledge or to make education a lifelong process. I hope you've understood the principles of education. I'll see you all in the next session. Thank you and have a great day.